hoping to meet a 14, nearly 15-year-old girl. If it could not get any more scary, then this is it. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing something slightly different. It's like a story time. This is a completely true story and I have several friends from my old school who could probably back this up if you ask them. But this is something that happened to me that was kind of scary actually, I guess, and it shows just sort of the power of the internet. And I have to say, I was pretty stupid. A lot of these things could have been avoidable. We will allow Year 9 Caitlin to, you know, vibe in her little internet world. So this is my, let's say, stalker story. I've got some notes here because before I started I thought I'd note everything down. I have no proof of any of this happening because I actually deleted my Instagram account with all the like messages on it. So I'm doing this from memory and you've just got to trust me that this is what happened. I have blocked these people I'm going to talk about on all of my social media. They remain on my Snapchat block list, for example, and my phone number block list. So I guess we start with the fact that it started around 2015, 2016. So I was year 9. It started originally on Instagram Live. At the time I was just starting my YouTube channel and I was pretty shockingly bad at music, but you know, and anybody who remembers it remembers me from back when I was in that year 9 sort of year 9, year 10. I used to do Instagram lives where I would sing live, play guitar badly live. I did that for fun, do truth or dare or like never have I ever, or you know, like all the stuff, or rates and whatever. And I do this like every week, maybe more than once a week sometimes. But anyway, this particular live, I can't remember his name, it was like Jake or something like that. He joins my live and I've never seen him before. I've never seen his account, he's never messaged me, nothing, but my account was and still is on public so anybody can join. He joins my live and he's like, wow, you're beautiful. I said like thanks or something like that, but I didn't have engaging conversation or anything like that because that was slightly odd to me that some random guy would join. You could be a model, like all this sort of thing. Obviously that's a confidence boost, but I was just like whatever, it's just some random guy saying this. And then my friends who were also on the live with me, not with me, but like were on the live, watching the live, commented on it and were like, oh Caitlin, like have you got a boyfriend? And I was like, no, don't know this guy. And then he messages me after I finished the live, because I finished the live because it was a bit awkward because of stuff he was saying and people were commenting on it and whatever. He says like, hi, I'm from your live, sorry if that was creepy, my name's Jake, I'm 19 years old, bearing in mind that this was when I was 14, 15, not even 15, I must have been 14. He's messaging me, he's like, I'm 19 years old, I live in America. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, like I've never been, sort of thing. And then he was like, yeah, it's cool, but like where do you live? And I was just like being really vague. I was like, oh, the UK. And he's like, oh, that's so cool, I really want to go to London one day. I was like, yeah, London's cool. Long story short, we started a conversation. We had like a friendly conversation and we'd have a friendly conversation pretty much every day at that point. It progressed into everyday conversations pretty quickly. Every morning he'd message me, every night he'd message me, that sort of thing. But like it was never like a online dating thing. It was never like an online boyfriend. But yeah, I think he saw it like that. But like, yeah, I'd never seen his face because his profile didn't have any pictures of him. He sent me a picture and said he was a cowboy and he lived on a ranch and like whatever. I was a bit suspicious about that because it just seemed very obvious, like an American stereotype. I don't know whether that actually, obviously it does happen, but like it just seemed very stereotypical. As I was saying, he would say things like, oh, you could be a model, like you're so good at singing, you don't listen to anybody. And I was being like made fun of a lot at the time, so obviously that was a big confidence boost. He'd say like, you're so pretty, and I was very insecure and I'm still very insecure, so that was a big thing. And so I was like, why don't we FaceTime? And he was like, oh no, I can't because I'm insecure about my skin. And obviously that's a big red flag. And I was like, oh, why are you insecure about your skin? What's happened? Like, what's up? And he was like, yeah, I was in a fire back when I was younger, back when I was like 16, 17, and I've got third-degree burns, so I like my skin's peeling off. I was like, okay, like I don't care, you could still show me your face, I get it, you're insecure, like I'm insecure. He was like, no, like he was persistent, like he wouldn't FaceTime me. And anyway, so he continued with this story about how he was in a barn out by the back of his house, like there was a barn behind his house, and it caught on fire one day, which was believable, I guess, because like barns are made of wood, right? It caught on fire, he was caught in the barn and got third-degree burns. And so I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Can you send me a picture of what you look like now? Because the picture he sent me didn't have any third-degree burns on his face. And he was like, yeah, I sent you a picture from when I was younger, I'll send you one from like more recently. So anyway, he sent me this photo of him with like bandages all over his face, like I'm not kidding, like you couldn't see his face, and the bits of skin that you could see were very red. Like, it was clear that the person he sent me clearly had been in some sort of fire or an attack or something like that, and he was in a hospital bed. And I was like, okay, that's clearly not from now though, because you're not in hospital, right? And he was like, no, that was like a year ago. And I was like, well, can you send me one from like now? He was like, no, I'm too insecure to do that. And I was like, okay, whatever. I kind of believed it, but like, I was naive, as I say. I kind of half believed it, but in the back of my mind, I knew that that was a very weird situation just happened like that. A couple days later, I get a follow on Snapchat. Bear in mind, I never gave him my Snapchat. I didn't have my Snapchat on my Instagram bio, so the only way he could have gotten my Snapchat is asked one of my friends, or I don't know. And then he pops up to me on Snapchat. I say, how did you get my Snapchat, for one? He's like, oh, I asked one of your friends. And when I asked him which friend, he wouldn't tell me. So obviously, at this point, I thought my friends are taking a joke. This has got to be one of my friends, like, messing with me. I thought it was a bit odd that they'd drawn it out this long. It had been like a few months at this point. We used to hang out, like, I had a small friendship group. We used to hang out like in this like upstairs toilet in the school. Anyway, so I went there at lunch the next day and was like, guys, you promise me you're not messing with me? And they were like, no, I swear to God, what's happened? Like, well, he's just added me on Snapchat and I never gave him my Snapchat. They were like, that's creepy, you should block him. And I was like, okay. But he hadn't done anything particularly worrying. Like, he'd had my Snapchat, but I was stupid. I should have blocked him. But anyway. And then something really concerning happened. He messages me a couple days later and he says, great news. And I'm like, what's happened? Thinking like, you know, he's got a job or like, I don't know, something normal has happened. And he's like, yeah, I just got plane tickets to come to England. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I just got plane tickets. Like, I'm gonna come to your town. And he then proceeds to tell me which town I live in. And obviously I'd never told him that town. I didn't have any photos on my Instagram or my tags or anything like that, which could give away where I lived. My school wasn't out anywhere at the time. That was weird. And I was obviously not excited about this. I know there's some YouTubers have said that they were excited about meeting their online friend, but that was a weird way of doing it. We had an argument basically. I told him he doesn't know my address and I don't want him to come. And at that point I thought, I guess it was over. Obviously I was wrong. Within the next couple of days I got a ton, and I'm not joking, hundreds of text messages, in the tens of calls. He was spamming me with them, and I asked him where he got my number, because again, I'd never given him my number. It wasn't on my social media accounts. Hardly any of my friends had my number at this point, because in year 9 I didn't give out my number. And he just said that he really needed to talk to me, and I was the only person he could talk. But his dad had cancer at the time, was in hospital. His mum had died, and like he had no siblings. He kind of contradicts himself later. So I never picked up any calls or anything, because that's weird, but I never heard his voice. We talked again for a while. I never really trusted that he was who he said he was or anything like that, and nothing sexual happened or anything like that. So we were just friends, very distant friends. He talked to me much more than I talked to him. A couple months went by, and then we were just talking, like we'd talk again every night and every morning, and it got back to where it was before he started being creepy and whatever. He said he was still coming to England and that he would meet me, he wants to meet me, and I was like, no, I'm year 9, nearly end of year 9 at this point. No, that's not happening. And then within a couple days I get 5-6 accounts adding me on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Facebook, which I hardly ever used, on Twitter, on all of my fan accounts, on like I had like 3 fan accounts. And he'd followed, I forgot to mention, he'd followed me on all of my accounts. I never gave him any of those accounts, but that could just be because my email was connected to all of them. Anyway, so he followed me on all of my accounts, and they followed me on all of my accounts. And there was about 4 accounts on Instagram, my 1 Facebook account, my 1 Twitter account, my phone number, my Snapchat. And at this point it was getting creepy. He had 2 younger sisters and 1 older brother, which he'd said he'd never had siblings, so that was odd. His mum and his dad had followed me, considering his dad was in hospital apparently. His uncle followed me, which was the weirdest part of it. If it could not get any more scary, then this is it. They all follow me, and at this point I'm just losing my mind. So I message him and I'm like, why have all of your family followed me? He was like, oh, like they're excited to meet you, they're all coming to England with me. I was like, what in what world would I come and meet your whole family? I told you I don't want to meet you in person. In what world does that sound all right to you? At this point he'd celebrated his 20th birthday, and he was hoping to meet a 14, nearly 15-year-old girl. Like, that's just odd. That can't just be me, that's odd. So basically I told him that I would call the police if he showed up to my town, and he was like, okay, you don't need to do that, like, I've got a past criminal record. And I was like, right. Then I get a message off of a girl whose username was JD Bieber. And obviously at the time I was obsessed with Justin Bieber, so I didn't think anything of it. I thought, you know, she's just probably a fan account. She messages me on my Justin Bieber fan account. So I thought, like, that's nothing. Her real name was JD. She messages me and she's like, back off. And then sends me a load of threats. She's like, I will come to your house and like, I will stab you in your sleep. Like all of this. And as a 14-year-old girl, I was like scared, but at the same time I didn't think she would actually do it. I never thought she'd actually do it. And she was like, yeah, like I'm talking to him, like he's my boyfriend. I was like, oh, so he's a real person? She was like, yeah, of course he's a real person. What do you think? I was like, well, he's not sending me photos. And she's like, yeah, he was in a fire and he has third-degree burns. And she relayed every single sort of detail about him that he told me. So I thought, oh, that's odd. Clearly he's a real person. Still a bit weird, but he's clearly a real person. I was like, how did you meet him? She was like, yeah, I met him on a cruise, like in person. I was like, okay, well, clearly he's a real person. And so I was like, okay, you can have him, I don't want him. And I proceeded to block him. He messaged me and he apologised for her and he said, she's like just a friend, she's obsessed with me. And I was like, right, this is all too much. And I blocked him on Instagram, on all of my Instagram accounts. A couple months later, I thought that was all over. She didn't message me for a couple months. He didn't message me because I blocked him, but he didn't message me on my Snapchat, he didn't message me on texts, nothing, for a couple months. Then a couple months later, I get a call off of him and a message on Instagram. I had blocked him, so this was weird for me, obviously. I tell him to leave me alone, and again, I threatened to call the police. At that point, JD calls me and I pick up and ask her what it would take basically for her to leave me alone, because I was in school, didn't want to be talking to random strangers. Had blocked him, but clearly the blocking system hadn't worked. I don't really know. His family had all been blocked, like everything had been blocked. I blocked them immediately. She starts crying to me down the phone. And obviously I was like, how do I deal with this? At this point we were upstairs in the upstairs toilets and I was with my friends and she was crying to me down the phone. So they all heard this happened. She's like, you know, he's not who he said he was. Like, I really thought he was. And she's rambling to me. And I was really confused because then I said, you know, you met him. He's got to be who he said he was. And she's like, no, like he lied to me. Like he's actually in his mid 50s. I'm like, but how did you mistake that? You met him. And she's like, yeah, but I met his son. He set his son up to meet me and then he's actually the one messaging me. And I was like, what? Like, what? And so she said that she'd call the police and that she would update me. I said, okay, I don't want anything to do with it. At this point, I just didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted to get on with my life. When I blocked him, I blocked all of his family. So she called me the next day and I picked up again and she told me that she'd given the police my number and that they said that they would want to talk to me. And I was like, well, I don't want anything to do with it really. Like, I don't care. Like, as long as you don't contact me, as long as he doesn't contact me, as long as he doesn't come to my house. He'd come out with several different things about me that he shouldn't have known. Like, he knew where I live, he knew my dog's name, he knew the town, the school I went to, he knew two of my friends' names, although I'm still convinced that he messaged them as well. So he knew my number, he knew like lots of different things that he should just not have known. So she said the police would call me. They never called me, they never got in contact, and I don't think the police were called. I blocked her at this point and I created a new Instagram account, and which is the one I use now, because he was still trying to contact me, which I don't know how he managed because I blocked him. And I blocked him on all of my social media, everything, so he couldn't contact me at all. To this day, he has not tried to contact me since then. I still wonder how he got my number, my address, other details. And yes, I guess that does worry me, but I'm convinced it was the girl who phoned me that was catfishing me the whole time. Don't know what she got out of it. She was some 22-year-old who lives up north somewhere, or says she lives up north somewhere. I don't know. She had a British accent but didn't recognise the voice. Again, she popped out of nowhere, so it's in my mind it's got to be her, or it's got to be one of my friends and they got one of their siblings or somebody to pretend to be her. I don't know, but that seemed quite elaborate. So yeah, that's my stalker story, how I got catfish story. I guess the message is be careful on the internet. I was a stupid, naive, ignorant 14-year-old, and I admit that. And yeah, it was the best decision to make a new Instagram, although it's kind of sad because I had more followers on there than I have now on my Instagram account. And don't post anything about yourself online, even though I was very careful not to. So yeah, have a good day, have a good quarantine, and we'll see you in the next video. Go view my skincare routine, go view my relating experiences website / video. Let me know what you think in the comments, like, subscribe, message me if you ever need to talk to somebody. I'll be here, and see you in the next video.